Hi everyone. In the olden days, it was the guy who got knocked down, who knocked down the greatest number of trees, who was deemed the strongest and most productive. During those times, when your reputation and your wage was determined by how hard you worked, lumberjacks would spend as many hours as possible knocking down trees, as many trees as possible, without wasting time on frivolous matters. Marty, a tall and strong lumberjack, was called into the office by the foreman. Marty, the foreman began, I don't know what's up with you, but we noticed that your productivity numbers seem to decline sharply each week as the week goes on. And if we don't figure out how to make every day look like a Monday for you, we might need to let you go. He then brainstormed with Marty about whether the man was taking breaks. Marty wasn't. Was he fooling around? Marty was not. And in an act of desperation and frustration, the foreman grabbed Marty's axe and then noticed that the blade had become incredibly dull. And so the foreman asked Marty, why didn't you stop to sharpen it? Are you crazy? The burly lumberjack asked him. You yourself told me how far behind I am. I can't stop to sharpen a blade. I'm too busy cutting down trees. I can relate to Marty's plight. I think we all can. There are so many demands on our time and our efficiency that we can easily tire out and lose focus on the tasks at hand, making them difficult to undertake and complete. We may know feeling totally exhausted and yet suffering from insomnia, either when trying to fall asleep or remaining asleep, like an engine that's being revved but has no gas. We might note a weakened physical health, a loss of enthusiasm and detachment from our job, our friends, and our loved ones. And like Marty, we may sense a sense of personal ineffectiveness or reduced sense of accomplishment, along with avoidance and a whole host of anxiety related physical and cognitive symptoms. 50 years ago, a Jewish German American psychologist, Herbert Freudenberger, noted that those suffering from these symptoms, who in his experience on the whole worked in highly demanding fields, suffered from a condition he called burnout. According to Freudenberger, the emotional numbing and emptiness that those with burnout suffered, the physical exhaustion, the cycles of work and overwork and depletion and sense of loss of purpose mimic styles and cycles of drug addiction. He noted that burnout was not actually an addiction, but rather a psychological state that shares some overlapping effects with substance dependence. And like an addictive style, if you break it at any point, you can solve it. Which is why I'm not really sure if I understand the cycle of burnout that exists in Parshas Vayeishev. We seem to come across a multiplicity of individuals who seem to suffer from burnout in the Parsha. Let's start with Yaakov. After suffering from the trials of being chased by Esav and ultimately confronting him, after dealing with Lavan and literally suffering work stress every single day for 20 years from the lies, the deceit, and the theft, after coming home to start a new life only to have his beautiful daughter savagely attacked by the son of the city, and to lose his beloved Rachel in childbirth, Yaakov burns out. Rashi tells us at the beginning of our parsha, Bikesh Yaakov Leishev B'Shalva. Yaakov Avinu just wanted to dwell in tranquility. And therefore, Kafatz Alav Rogzo Shel Yosef, that's when the troubles of Yosef came upon him. Rashi goes on to explain that Hashem doesn't think that tzaddikim should be asking for or taking a break in this world. But Yaakov was burned out, so why punish him? So he thought a little bit of and sought a little bit of tranquility. Didn't he earn it? Moreover, in the other episodes of the Parsha, we find that everyone who seems to be burned out suffers at the time of a break. Yehuda goes down from his brothers because of their blaming him for the episode of the sale of Yosef. Yet his break from them leads him into difficulty. Yosef, too, finds himself enslaved in Egypt, and when trying to make the best of a bad situation, tries to stay off the burnout. And Rashi cites that Hashem castigated Yosef for the break and tells him, Ani begar b'chas hadov, I'm going to incite the bear against you. As with Yaakov, we're left to ponder. Are we supposed to power through a burnout? From our parsha, it seems like the answer repeatedly is yes. And yet the psychological research seems to suggest otherwise. How are we supposed to understand burnout in the parsha, and how are we supposed to proceed through it? I believe the answer comes down to an understanding of a request to retire Bishalva with tranquility versus just seeking a temporary break. The Malbim notes that Shalva speaks to a man's desire for an internal sense of calm and peace that's void of any stress. That Shalva is supposed to provide a sense of safety and protection so that tranquility can prevail. And so hence we daven, Yehi Shalva b'Yarmenosayach. Let there be tranquility in your fortress, Hashem. When we are protected from the pressure from the outside, Shalva can be achieved inside for us all. Yaakov wanted to create that level of calm in his life by removing himself from life itself. And so by ignoring the responsibilities and needs of the world at large, one might be able to feel a full sense of serenity temporarily. And the key word here is temporarily. Rav Shimon Schwab noted that Kriya B'Shem Hashem, converting the masses to monotheism, is a task that was taxed upon each of the Avos. And Yaakov thought that now that he was home, he could retire and focus on the family instead. However, a Jew is not able to fully retire from Jewish life until the entire job is achieved. Until that job is done completely, bishalom, in shleimus and completeness, we need to continue to work and to be involved. Yaakov sought to stay in that state of shalva while the storm of the world wreaked havoc on life. Yehuda removed himself from the brothers, and he was content with Yosef being in slavery. Job incomplete. Yosef began to give in. If this was his lot in Mitzrayim, he'd assimilate. And in each of these means, the protagonist accepted an incomplete on a bigger goal. Hashem couldn't accept it in any of these instances. And hence he set out to challenge the break, to keep it from an attempt to making it become permanent. You see, when we can condone and even encourage breaks from the daily grind, for someone suffering from burnout, the real treatment for the condition is not a permanent siluk, a permanent quitting on the larger goal. It's not a solution. Merely accepting failure is actually likely to exacerbate the situation. The better approach is a reassessment of role or path towards attainment of the ultimate goal that makes a difference. If work is not going the way that you're making it, then recall what your real goal was and develop another path towards goal fulfillment. If work is not satisfying, how about adding time for Torah study or mitzvah or chesed performance, setting goals for yourself that you'll find meaningful, putting work back into its proper place in your definition of life goal, which will yield much more benefit than simply quitting on life altogether. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman Zatzal, Hashem Yikon Damo, actually makes this point from another story in the Parsha, that of the dreams of the butler and the baker. Rabbi Chanan notes that if you look at the baker's dream, the baker's stationary, while the butler stays active. Yosef saw this and understood that the baker is living a life without movement or accomplishment. And once he gets stuck there, life is no longer being lived. On the other hand, in his dream, representing his aspirations, the butler is living a life of accomplishment. Yeah, he was given a long break, but he kept to his goals, and he remained focused on them. I find it interesting that Parshas Vayeishev is always read on the Shabos when Hanukkah occurs in the upcoming week. This isn't only due to the obvious fear of that which underlies the condition of burnout, namely burning candles at both ends, but it's also because of the fact that in the year 165 of the Common Era, a retired Kohen Gadol who is personally not physically well, but recognized that the spiritual danger which stood to threaten the Jewish nation. Matisyo Kohen Gadol didn't pass the buck and simply tap out to a new generation. He sought a new approach to achieve his goal that would set out to place shalom throughout the land. He didn't burn out. He couldn't allow himself to, because Jewish life and continuity were way too important to him. Like Yehuda, Yaakov, Yosef, Matisyo, you and I may face moments of exhaustion and setbacks. But those moments are not calls to abandon the mission. They're opportunities to reevaluate, to sharpen our swords and our axes, and to continue building towards the ultimate goal of revealing Hashem's presence in this world. Burnout doesn't mean that the fire of our neshama has gone out. It simply just needs a little bit of rekindling. And by realigning our priorities, seeking Torah, mitzvos, and acts of chesed, we can reignite the inner flame. In achieving that goal, we ask Hashem to give us the renewed strength to stick to the goal, even if reassessing our role in getting there. Hashem Oz li'am o yitain, we ask constantly. Hashem will give strength to his nation.
Hashem yivarech es amo v'shalom. Hashem will bless his nation with peace. Wishing you and yours the greatest of success, and to everyone else, a Chanukah Sameach and a Shabbat Shalom to all.